Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Brandon Shank. And always, I got my main man, Corey, in the corner. What up, everybody?
What's up, everybody? I'm back.
I'm just going to preface it with this. It's hot in here today, bro. We had just talked about this. This sun, the daylight savings time got me because this jacket's probably coming off at some point.
We put the blinds down a little bit, dude, but it probably won't help.
I'm roasting, man. So last week after the podcast, my wife was gone all week. She was in Chicago, and I thought I was doing pretty good. You know, 4 boys, 3 of them are in baseball, multiple practices every night, those kind of things. Wednesday, record the podcast, and leaving to go. My mom calls me and she's like, "Hey," I was like, "How's everything?" She's good. Everything's blah blah. You know, I said, "All right, cool." She said, "Where's Rylan?" I said, "What?" She goes, "He wasn't on the bus." I was like, "Man, my man missed the bus." Well, he didn't miss the bus. He had an after-school activity. Oh, and he needed to be picked up. And I looked at my clock and I was like, "Oh," and it's like 25 minutes away. And so I had to get it because I had to go from there. I had to get Rylan. I almost left him. If she hadn't said that, he'd probably still be there until Casey got home. Hasn't
Rylan been the one that's been left before?
Yeah, it's not the first time.
I feel for him because I've been there. I've been there, Rylan.
So what Corey's alluding to is that when we were at church at the old building, which is it's very rural, right around the building.
Yeah,
lots of buildings, but then the building itself is just a lot of concrete, and then a building kind of in the middle of it. And Casey was like, "Man, we got to the restaurant. This was after church one Sunday." She goes, "Did Rylan not come with you?" I was like, "No, I thought he was with you." So we go back to the building. There's a giant building, tons of concrete. I mean, it's like 7 acres of pavement and then apartments all around it. And little Rylan's sitting there on the bench outside. I know. We're bad parents. I'm a bad parent.
He's the one that would survive, though, right?
Rylan would. Rylan could live off of a piece of grass and a shoestring for a month. I mean, he can make it work, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you something weird I saw. So yesterday, drive down the road, pull up to the light, and there's a guy who is in this amazing car, super nice car. Tire shined, detailed, and he's wearing like $1 million suit. I was like, "Bro, it do look good, like a 3-piece suit on." I look over, man's eating chicken. In the morning, like 9:30 in the morning, like full up to his chest, just like throwing down chicken. I'm like, man,
had like a bowl or a plate, or
like a Popeyes bowl of chicken with the fork, and just going to town. I'm like, bro, it's 9:30, like chicken bites. I was amazed because I was thinking I was completely stereotyping. I was thinking there's probably some kind of classical music on this car, like that kind of feel.
Yeah,
dude was crushing some Popeyes, and it looked delicious. At 9:30 in the morning, I was like, man, I think I need some Popeyes.
Hey. Absolutely.
It was odd, It was just odd. I don't know what it was. I remember calling somebody at that point. I remember who I was talking to. I was like, "You ain't gonna believe what I just saw." They're like, "What?" I was like, "This dude in a super nice car, 3-piece suit, 9:31, just crushing a big old thing of chicken." I mean,
there's not a bad time for popcorn chicken, in my opinion.
Apparently, I'm missing. I love Popeyes. I'm missing something here. Hey, one thing is good around here. It's cookie day. It's Wednesday.
It is
here at our office. It's cookie day. It's like being in a daycare. I love it, man. We go out there, get our cookies. Corey's hiding a couple of them over there. There you go. We ain't going to eat them today. This ain't live. No more live.
I'll eat these live. I don't have a problem with these.
Got a whole bunch of cookies over there.
I know.
Hey, everyone's asking, can this podcast be longer? No, it can't. My wife told me she didn't want it to be longer.
Yeah.
But she hears me all the time. But they're like, is this podcast longer? I got a confession. I don't really listen to podcasts. Yeah, you're a podcaster. Now, I know this is something I felt called to do for a long time. I'm a music guy. And so when I used to not have much of a commute for the first 6 years of our church, I only lived a mile from my office. So I didn't have a chance to listen. I had 4 kids. They were all little. Now I'm about 25 minutes. But I call people. I'm on the phone the whole time, usually with my buddies, talking, just to hanging out. It gives me like 25 minutes one way to talk to people. And then sometimes I don't even listen to anything. Like, it's so much noise. I feel like in the mornings, I was telling the guys, sometimes I'm on the treadmill in the morning or like working out. And unless I'm doing like a hard workout, I don't even play music. I just like the quiet of the morning, nothing around me. So I do listen to guys. I listen to certain messages I like. And there will be some podcasts I'm like, that's my guy. But I was coming into this, I wasn't necessarily a podcaster. I did podcast research for years. I did a lot of podcasts, those types of things, but there wasn't like a particular podcast that I locked into that I was like, this is the podcast for me. And so we got in a conversation about where do you listen to your podcast? So I'd like to know. Send it in. Instagram. Let me know. Social media. Let me know where you listen to your podcast, where you listen to. I've had some people write me. A lot of people listen to it. Multiple people have written and said they listen to it on their drive. To work. And these guys, a lot of them are in big cities where they have such a commute. Some of them aren't actually. They listen to them on their drive, which is cool. Corey and Brandon both had a very weird revelation. They listen to their podcast. You want to tell them? It's weird to me.
This isn't weird. There's got to be people out there that do this weird thing where they precariously put their phone somewhere in the shower and you listen to it in the shower. I mean, start your day with a podcast while you're getting ready, while you're getting dressed, while you're brushing your teeth, just listening to a podcast. In the shower.
And then I realized, well, I don't have a speaker in my shower. And then Brandon says, bro, Brandon Parker Cooper said, I've got a Bluetooth speaker hanging in my shower.
He's fancy. I don't. I have the put your phone up in the corner somehow of the tile. Buddy does that, and his phone fell the other day and broke.
Y'all, I don't understand the mentality of taking a phone in the shower and like needing to hear something that bad. Usually, those are moments where my kids aren't around. It's quiet. I can just do my thing. Not that I don't love my kids being around, but that's a time where you don't, right? Yeah. When I'm in the shower, when I'm doing my thing, I just leave me alone. So it's quiet. Yeah. The last thing I want is like listen to stuff. Now, if you listen to the podcast in the shower, more power to you. I guess for me, it's just, it's just a different thing, man. I don't know. It is what it is. But it ain't for me. Listen. So we're into bracketology. It's March Madness. So I asked Corey. Corey doesn't. He's not a self-proclaimed. He watches the Final Four. He's not a self-proclaimed follower of basketball. I do have to admit something. This is the first year in the history of my life that I've not watched a full college basketball game this year.
There you go.
Too much coaching, man. Every night it's like we're coaching, we're doing something with the kids. I haven't college football. I didn't watch I watched games, but I didn't probably get a full game till October. And I knew where every team was at. I knew their stats. I knew those types of things mostly, but I hadn't watched a full game because Saturday and Sundays were coaching. But with college basketball, I keep up to a degree, but I haven't. It's not like I have time to sit down and just watch the game. So I did a bracket. But I asked Corey to do one because Corey, a lot of times people win these things that aren't necessarily the biggest fans. They just better at luck. So I said, Corey, do one, man, and let's see where we go. So we're going to compare our brackets. But I want to know who your Final Four is. We're going to compare? Well, I mean, because I don't know any more than you do probably this year. I haven't watched that many games, but who's your Final Four? Tell me that. And so if you haven't done a bracket, do a bracket. We're doing $1 million challenge here on the Brandon Shank podcast. If you get all of them right, we're going to give you $1 million. I'm just kidding. Yeah. That's a lie. It's not happening. So what do you got, man? Who's your Final Four?
I have Virginia, Arizona.
Why'd you pick Virginia?
Because I live in Virginia.
Okay, I like it. That's what I'm asking.
I'm rooting for them.
Okay,
right?
But and what's your second team?
Miami and Texas.
Okay, why Miami and Texas?
I don't know. I picked numbers.
Okay, why?
And part of me, like when I was picking the numbers, I was like, they're not underdogs by any mean, but in some of the brackets, I was like, I don't know. I want the low number to beat the high number.
And I made it very clear: do not research.
Yeah, I didn't research at all.
And so, who else? You said Arizona.
Miami, Texas, Virginia, Arizona.
And why Arizona?
I don't know.
I like that. I like that answer. Who do you have winning it?
Virginia. I have Virginia winning it.
And by how much? Did you do the score?
No, I didn't do the score.
Okay.
Sorry.
And you got Virginia winning it because?
Because I live in Virginia.
I mean, these are great reasons. My Final Four, I got Alabama, Arizona, Indiana, and Iowa State. And you're thinking, this dude's lost his mind. Listen, some years it's all number one picks in the Final Four. Some years it's number twos. You just never know. Yeah. I picked Iowa State. They're my sleeper because they don't have they play Pitt. Then they play the winner of Xavier. Is that Kennesaw State? I'm guessing they play the winner of those games. They kind of have a path where they could very easily. Or that's not my Final Four. That was my Sweet 16. They have a path they could very easily get there. But I have Indiana beating them, and so my Final Four is Arizona, Duke, Indiana, Kansas. Yeah, I was reading the wrong part of the bracket, but just going to show you how much I watched this year. No, Arizona's on there. I have them beating Alabama. I know it's probably an upset that y'all ain't thinking would happen, but Arizona, 1997, Mike Bibby, man, that's when they won it. I believe they're bringing it back to the 90s. Everything's going back to the 90s, and so is Arizona. This year, they're going to win it. And so we'll see what happens, man. But I have Arizona, Duke, Indiana, Kansas. I really like the Iowa State pick. I'm thinking maybe that team will go further. They could beat Indiana, but I like Indiana in the Final Four. I just feel like when you get to schools like the Arizonas and Indianas, these are old school. I remember them being good, and so the whole Bob Knight era at Indiana. I'm hoping not that that's some people may not celebrate that era, but I'm hoping that it's a reprise. So we'll see. I would like it to be a little nostalgic. Kansas, I like Duke. I just feel like some of these teams, there's a difference between being ranked and then when you get there and how good they are. And I just feel like some of these teams are better than what people, I don't really care what people rank them as. I look at kind of the character of the team. Duke's a team, they won ACC. You can't sleep on a team like that. It's that simple. Yeah. So, and then I got Arizona beating Kansas in the national championship. But yeah, that Iowa State, Indiana, that's how I got Indiana going to the Final Four, because they beat Iowa State in the Sweet 16. So
yeah, I definitely looked at the character of the teams too. Yeah, that's definitely how I picked my numbers.
Arizona beating Baylor in my Elite Eight. So anyway, there it is, folks. We'll see who goes. We'll see what happens on these. Do your brackets, man. Fill them out. There is no $1 million challenge, but on ESPN there is. You can win something, man.
Oh man.
So hey, you asked for it.
Here we go.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
All right, Matt from VB. He says, how much can you bench press with that upper body you're rocking? What's people's obsession?
This is continual thing.
This is continual. I didn't know my body would be such a hit on this podcast. Grateful. Thank you for asking, Matt. How much can I bench press? Probably somewhere around 850 pounds.
Oh, man.
7 Corys.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever that is.
It's less than 7.
Honestly, man, my goal was always 315. Most ever bench press 295. Never tried after that. Just whatever. Got old. Things hurt. I think I could probably still do 295 one good time. I don't know. Maybe 315. Maybe that old man strength. There's a real thing with old man strength that kicks in.
You can bench press 1 Corey.
1 Corey. That's all it takes, man. All right, next question. This is from Marie from VB. What up, Marie? I work with a couple of atheists. She said they believe solely in science. When trying to explain the beginning of creation, can we agree that both science and the Bible are both true? That God created the Big Bang, and yes, it's true, but so is God. I mean, this is power packed. Science, the easiest way to explain it, and the way that I think there's a faith in God, no matter how you look at it. It's not going to be able to be explained by man or science. There are things that absolutely that science supports, but God it's faith. It's a faith base. So science is the physical things. God is the spiritual things, and faith is the tension between the physical things and the spiritual things. Like science has to be proven. For science to have fact, there has to be something like true, allegorically true, metaphorically, whatever it may be. There has to be something factual about science. Faith doesn't. So faith, there's a ton of backing for faith. I'll give you an example. I tell our church this all the time, that the New Testament has over 28,000 copies that have been found, that have copies of the New Testament that have been discovered. Plato and Socrates, there are 5 to 7 copies of those manuscripts, 28,000 of just the New Testament. So if the Bible is proven wrong or invalid, it would make every book ever written invalid.
Yeah. Okay.
So those are facts, right? That's stuff we've actually found. But there's always going to be a tension between science and faith. There's always going to be a tension between, so you can say, yeah, the Big Bang, this and that. We know that God created all of it. So however it happened, I don't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, we see how creation happened in Genesis and what the Bible tells us, but there are galaxies far beyond what we can. There are, thousands of galaxies that we don't have access to get out of our own galaxy. But yet there's all these galaxies around us.
Millions, trillions,
galaxies.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was just something I was reading the other day about they're getting sounds from galaxies apart from ours that they're finally tracing. It's like over 8 billion years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the size of God, you take a galaxy within billions and trillions of galaxies into one planet within a galaxy, and then within that one planet, you have one person in one county, in one state, in one, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You see how big God is. And so the Bible's very clear. Like, we're not going to be able to understand a God with a human mind. There's a faith that has to go into that because we don't have the capacity to see those things. So yeah, I do believe that you can agree on some things that science does prove the reality of God in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Science doesn't, people think there's such a tension between science and God. There's really not. The further you get into science, the more it proves that God is real.
Yeah.
Because the scientific things that some people have been discovered actually haven't. It's a lot of discovery with a lot of opinion to create a hypothesis, but it's not. A lot of science proves the validity of what God is.
Yeah.
And so there's not as much tension as people think.
There'd be a lot of scientists too that they say they may now not even be Christians themselves, but they say our universe points to a creator. And so that even of itself, even science that doesn't believe in God, there's many scientists that would say that and believe that.
Yeah, and a lot of science, will tell you it takes more faith to believe that this all just happened without a God, than to believe in a God.
Yeah.
And so, that's that. So, Marie, thank you for your question. I hope that I think the biggest thing for your coworkers is let them see, when you let people see something in you that they can't explain, that you're saying that's a lot of weight to carry, that people would see God in me, but that's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of it, is that people see something in your life that they're like, well, there's something different about you. Because this is what I can tell you. Anybody who loves God, there's going to be an opportunity for people in your life to see God, because they're going to need him. They're going to have a brokenness. They're going to have something in their life that takes place where they need to hear God. They need to see God. They need to understand God. And they're going to look to the people who say they believe in him. And they're going to look to your life. That's the thing that Christians, I think we have to use this term so loosely, because there's a lot of people that identify themselves as Christians that they want to serve a God or say they serve a God, but their life is different than that which God asks us to lead, right? Their life is based off of rules. It's based off of, you're only a Christian if you fill in the blank. They're the ones that are more concerned a lot of times about policy than they are people. Mm. And I think that what I've learned is that whether it be science or politics or frustrations, living the way God's called you to live loudly, not throwing it in people's face, but living so loud that people know there's something different, is the loudest, it's the clearest proof that God exists in your life. It's the clearest proof when people see that. So I think that there's going to be tension, and I think it's okay. I think tension's a good thing, man, especially if it's creating conversation. Let it be what it is. So
yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think, keep doing your thing. I think that God and science actually work together better than most people think. So, all right. Well, in the news, one of the articles I recently read talked about college wrestlers. There's 4 college wrestlers. They were in Yellowstone. They took on a grizzly bear. Yeah.
This is my kind of story. I love it.
So in Yellowstone, it's a 1 in 2.7 million chance that you actually get attacked by a grizzly bear. They say that there's been 8 deaths by grizzly bears in 150 years, one more than the number of deaths from falling trees. So in 150 years, only one more person has been killed by a grizzly bear than a falling tree, which tells me you should be just as scared of the trees in Yellowstone as you should the grizzly bears. So people don't run from the trees, but you run from the grizzly bears.
Yeah.
But there was 2 wrestlers, Brady Lowry and Kendall Cummings, who actually were attacked. So the way the story goes is one of them was attacked, and their 2 other buddies were with them. And while the one wrestler was being attacked, he said he got thrown 30 yards, and the bear was literally dribbling him. Jeez. Like a human ball. Dribbling him. It's not funny. But when you think about I'm laughing. When I read this, I giggled to myself because I thought about the power of this animal.
Yeah.
Dribbling? Are you kidding me?
No.
What that must feel like. Well, he saw his friend close to death. He said, I knew he was 30 seconds from death. So he ran up and jumped on the bear's back.
Let's go. I love these people.
I
love them already.
He jumped on his back, bro. And the bear chased him down and then attacked him. But he saved his friend's life.
Jeez.
So then their other buddies who were with them carried them to safety so they could get help. They get medical help. And they ended up both living. They both survived. One of them was like an All-American wrestler.
Wow.
Like within, it was in a fair amount of short time after this, he ended up, getting nationally ranked. He was like number 5 or 6 in this tournament and like nationally ranked. That's like a quick overview. Look it up, read more on it. But I was like, dude, can you imagine? I put myself in the position of, can you imagine seeing your buddy that you care about getting attacked by a grizzly bear? And then your thought is, I'm going to go jump on the bear's back.
Yeah, really.
I'm going to jump on the back of this thing. I see him getting mauled to death, knowing I'm about to be the next victim, but I'm just going to try to give him enough time to get away.
Yeah. Here's my favorite thing.
Well, the bear went back and kicked dirt on top of the first one because he thought he killed him.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So this dude, here's my favorite part. This dude wrestles a bear. He's a wrestler. Could you imagine being the guy that has to wrestle that guy next? Knowing that,
seriously.
This dude wrestled a bear.
And the scars to show it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrestled a bear.
Jeez.
You can't make that up. So, hey, shout out, man.
Yeah, really.
Shout out to those guys.
Jeez.
I mean, that's a level of that's a level of grit that you don't know you have until you could say I would do that for a friend, but an adrenaline takes over, and you could say you would, and I think we all hope we would. But jumping on the back of a giant animal that could tear you in half in a moment, and you do it, knowing you're going to get chased and you're going to get mauled open. They had staples in their head and their face, all over the place.
Yeah, I think sometimes stopping and pausing to realize grizzly bears are like 9 to 10 feet tall. Like,
and they run.
Yeah, exactly.
Fast.
Yeah, like 45 miles per hour.
Gosh.
I have all your animal facts over here, by the way.
Tell us more.
I may not know how to do a bracket, but
you might have the most accurate bracket in all of ESPN bracketology.
I love it.
Yeah. So anyway, Brady and Kendall, ballers, man.
Yeah,
ballers.
We salute you. Yeah,
we absolutely do salute you. So hey, this next article that I'm going to read in the news, it's there is parental discretion here. This is going to be some graphic content, but it's something that I want to share with you. It's an article I read, and I really wanted to bring it to you because I wanted people to see, all of you. First of all, let me say this. Thank you for listening. Like, thank you so much. I would ask, go ahead, comment, like, subscribe. And the reason is I want as many people to get this as they can. The whole purpose in me creating this podcast was I want to increase biblical literacy amongst people. I want people to say, you can read Ephesians, you can read 1 Corinthians, you can read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you can read Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, you can read all this stuff. But and on Sundays when I teach it and different times, I want you to chew on it. I want you to let it get into your spirit. I want you to say, like, how does this apply to my life? And God, what do you need me to do? But to increase the literacy, we have to apply it. And so my passion behind this podcast has been, how can I get people to see what's going on in the world and how does our gospel apply to that? Because I think a lot of times we feel disconnected from the gospel because we feel like it's disconnected from our world. Is that fair? Yeah. Is that fair? I think a lot of people say, man, it just doesn't feel like it's relevant, or it's how do we connect with those times? And I get that. And so my passion was, how can I connect the worlds? How can I be a liaison to try and help people understand and increase their biblical literacy and all this? And this particular article and some of these things we talked about, they have been heavy, and I get that. But I want to add value to your life. I want you to see things in a bigger scope than just through your lens, because that's what I'm trying to do. And this article is very personal to me because I've lived a part of this. But the article is child sex abuse content is exploding online, and we're losing the fight against it. Mm-hmm. I was sexually abused as a kid, multiple times by different people, and multiple times with different people. And so anything when it comes to child sexual abuse, this is more dealing with images that are being shared, but it immediately can take me back to an emotion.
Yeah.
Right? And that emotion and those things have tried to destroy my life. I've been suicidal for seasons. I've dealt with anxiety through the 40 years I've been alive. I know the toll that these things take on people. I've had a therapist that looked me in the eye and said, "How are you still here?" Years ago, a couple years ago, and I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "People like you usually don't make it." I had a nurse one time that when my wife was giving birth to Makai, my third, she had just moved over to the maternity ward. And she had come over from the psych ward. And I asked her, I said, is there any one consistent thing that the people in the psych ward are dealing with?
Yeah.
And she said, or that caused something. She said almost every single one of them that are in a particular place have endured childhood sexual abuse. And this was in the middle of me kind of going and getting some deeper healing for things and really talking to counselors. And so, I just want to encourage you, if this is a trigger for you, if you've been somebody who's been a byproduct of that, get help. And I will tell you this. A lot of times people say, well, God will heal. I believe that, but I believe God heals through people. Yeah. And I believe God uses his supernatural by giving people words to speak to you, because I couldn't get where I'm at without people. You could say, well, if you just love the Lord and fast and pray, it doesn't work like that. I've loved God, I've fasted, I've prayed, I've done all of it, and he sent me to people to give me words that he could then take into my spirit and help me chew on to grow, just like you're doing right now. Like, yeah. I'm believing a lot of you will hear these things and it'll be something to stir you and hopefully lead to healing for some people. But I'm going to read a couple of statistics. It comes on the heels of Patrick Wohan. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's Wojahn. He was the mayor of College Park, Maryland. He resigned before he was arrested on March 2nd. 2023 on child pornography and possession charges, 56 counts of possession and distribution. The FBI reports that digital child sex abuse material is so, the volume is so high that the agency must prioritize images involving infants and toddlers. And Facebook reported more than 20 million images in 2020. Google reported more than 550,000 in the same year. Snapchat, 145,000 in the same year. TikTok, 22,000 in the same year. Online tips reporting suspected child sexual exploitation have increased 2,800% from 2012 to 2021. It's time to show these offenders that they can't get away with this, is kind of what the article was saying. And why am I talking about this? Because it needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
The society is deteriorating. Sexual sin is taking over in so many areas and avenues. When you get to the point where you're exploiting children, there's a sexual sin, there's a darkness, a demonic, an evil to that. People need to wake up and realize the weapons that the fight is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual war. This is a spiritual war. This isn't bad decisions. This isn't people are just going through stuff. No, this is a spiritual war. The warfare that we face is demonic, it's evil, and we can ignore it and say, man, if we're just all good and we do our thing. Listen, people, this is not the way that it works. I'm trying to tell you. The Bible is very clear in this, that the weapons that we have got to be spiritual and not carnal.
Yeah.
That the war we are facing is a legitimate spiritual war, and we are losing it because you can't take God away from society and expect for society to get whole. You just can't. It doesn't work like that. Some people, the same people that don't want God in anything, they can't figure this out. Like, what's going on? Well, you brought it on yourselves. God didn't do this. This is the byproduct of God being removed, not the byproduct of God being present. I love what Psalm 33 says. It says, blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord. And that's where we've been for so long. And this country, I think they say a third of all people alive claim Christianity. They are Christians, they love Jesus, or they say they love Jesus, whatever it may be. But this is a heavy article. I mean, when I read it, I almost didn't want to share it today. I didn't want to share it. I was like, well, but I could not, because there are a lot of you listening that we've all struggled with things in our life. I know, having been a byproduct of sexual abuse, I've struggled in sexual sin like pornography for years. It was something I struggled with for a long time in my life because I never felt like there was a hole in my life I was trying to fill, and nobody ever told me how to fill it. You're thinking, well, you're a Christian, God, he should tell you. It didn't work like that.
Yeah.
I love God, but there was a hole that I was trying to fill, because what happens is when you're a child and people you trust abuse you, then mentally, this is what my therapist shared with me, you begin to believe that that's how you show people love, is through the sexual things. It's something that starts to get built into your brain. And that's not an excuse, but I was saying something that for me, I had to actually get healing from, to think that these were ways. And there's a lot of people who've been abused, and this is not a first generation problem. And if it was, we wouldn't have if this was a first generation problem right now, we wouldn't have all the stuff happening that's happening.
Yeah.
A lot of these people who are doing this, no excuse, unbelievably no excuse, but they have been the byproduct of sexual abuse in their life. Mm-hmm. A lot of people struggling with sexual things, they have been sexually abused. They have been the byproduct of sexual abuse. A lot of the overdoses. These things are all byproducts of people who have been abused. Not all of them, but this is not a first generation problem.
Yeah.
This is something that it's just getting worse. Like, the sexual sin is legitimate. And so a lot of people, you've had it in your life and you're like, this is the one thing that tries to get at me. And I'm telling you, the only thing that'll fix it is Jesus. And it's something that it's a process. You have to go somewhere. You say, what do I do? You have to go somewhere you confess. If it's a therapist, somewhere you can be safe and you can confess. And you can talk through things that you struggle with in your life and let them get help them, let them speak to you, speak through things, own up and let them get help. Because this is my thing. I got 4 boys, and I wasn't going to let what happened to me filter into their life. Yeah. Not worth it, man. No. You know what I mean? I don't want them to be held captive. I mean, they have stuff available to them now I never had. We had to sneak into 7-Elevens and grab magazines back in the day. Now, they got it on their phones. I mean, I've got, like, Caden, my 6th grader, he just got a phone because he does, like, some content stuff. He has his own YouTube channel and stuff like that, and we just got him one, and there's an app called Covenant Eyes, which I see everything on his phone. It blurs images. He can't get to certain sites. So I see everything that he does. I keep him accountable to it. And all my boys are going to be like that. You know, they need to be accountable to these things. I want to protect them, but I know that it's out there and they're going to have to see it and they're going to have to walk through. They have to fight the fight, you know, boys and girls alike. So I don't know, man, what are your thoughts?
Oh, goodness.
I mean, I know it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. There's not a right or wrong here. It's a get healthy. It's a let God guide you. It's a let God pour into you and help you with this, man. Because this is a staggering, this is disgusting. And it's scary. I got 4 kids, man. And it's one of those things where you just don't know who or what you can trust, you know? And you got to use that discernment. You got to ask God to help you and guide you. And, you know, this is every parent, no matter who you are, has thought, like, you want to protect your kid from these things.
Yeah. No,
predators, you know?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And again, I've not personally walked through sexual abuse, but I've experienced certain things in my life that I'm now kind of seeking counsel and going through counseling and stuff. And I would reiterate that. Get help. Go get help. Go talk to somebody, because what I've realized is I've looked back in my past and I'm a notorious stuffer. So I just stuffed the emotions for 30 some years now. And there's only so much your brain can stuff until it all comes pouring out. And so I just don't want to live that way anymore. I don't want to be a stuffer. I don't want to stuff emotional things. I don't want to stuff certain things that were traumatic in my life, you know, with losing my father traumatically and that kind of, like, I stuffed all of those emotions, and it comes out as anxiety and depression and stress and fear, and you got to process those things. Like, your brain is a beautiful thing, but it's got to process the information that's in it. So yeah, I would agree with you. Get help. Go find somebody. Go talk to somebody, because it's not failure. Yeah, like, it's not failure, and so don't view it that way. Go get help. Yeah,
and hurt people. So these people are hurt. That's not an excuse. There's no. I don't have an excuse to take the hurt in my life and put it on my boys or leave them vulnerable. I don't have that. But hurt people. Yeah. And I think it's very important that we say, "Hey, man, go get help." Like, this is an article. This is a staggering article, and it's terrifying to think that our kids are subject to this stuff. You know what I mean? And that you're like, who can I trust? Everybody you didn't have background checks for Little League 15 years ago, 20 years ago, probably. Now you can't step on a field without one, and you shouldn't. I know all of our travel baseball teams, background checks for every coach, because they all coach Little League. Yeah. Everybody's background checked. You can't practice with our kids unless you've been background checked. Yeah. We want parents to know, hey, nobody has ever had that background, ever, you know? And so, you know, and you get to that place where, and you hate it for people who've struggled, and you're like, well, their life is ruined. They'll never be able to do anything again, because society will never look at you as healed if you've ever struggled in that area and done something you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's a cancel. It's one of those things. It's solid. You do this, you're canceled, period. Yeah. And some people say, well, they should be this and that. I believe in redemption. I believe in grace, but I also am not stupid. Yeah. And I think that forgiveness doesn't mean forget. The Bible doesn't say you have to forget. You know, God forgets.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the only one who can. Yeah, we don't. And so I think there's that element of we got to be smart, man. So anyway, final thought.
Here we go.
Here's my final thought.
Well, last week we covered a topic that honestly was unintentional. It kind of went with some of the flow we were talking about. It was about gun control. And it wasn't even, you can go back and listen to it. I'm not going to go over it again. But, you know, we had some things get pretty hefty on there. And some people threatened my life. Some legitimate death threats coming in through there. So I do not thank you for those. But I think what dawned on me is, Corey was joking with me. He said, so does that make you feel like you made it when people were actually want to take you out? No, but it does kind of make you feel like, wow, people need peace. Yeah. That's what I thought. Like, people need some legit peace to threaten lives over a topic, right? Yeah. And so I say that because the Bible talks about a peace that surpasses our understanding, not one that we understand. And I'm praying that for everybody listening to this. I just feel like we need peace. Yeah. You know, my wife told me when we started the podcast, she goes, just, you know, you're opening yourself up to a whole world, because, you know, you speak on a weekend, or you speak at different things, and that's fine. Or you could interview leaders, or I can bring people on here every week to do interviews. But when you talk about things, you open yourself up, because people are waiting, right? And So one of the posts has been taken down. It was against my will. I didn't know about it until it was after taken down. The team took care of it. They were like, "Hey, man, we went ahead and took it down." I was like, "Man, why'd you do that? We should have left it up." Like it creates some. I want people to see what's being said so that people can respond. People, we have to have a voice. You know, it's not about online fighting. I don't even see a lot of it. I didn't hear about it until 5 days after, or 4 days after. But I think people need peace. And when you talk about, something as small as that topic, and to some people it's their world because it's their security. It makes them feel safe to have something that they feel like can protect them. And what I'm telling you is God's your protector. He loves you. He cares for you. And nothing will happen to you that he won't be there with you through. And nothing will happen to you that you have to worry about not having peace through, because he is peace. And, and I almost hated in the show today with this much heavy. But I just feel like I just can't, like this, that's what I'm feeling this week. There's just a heavy. I feel like mentally there's a lot of us that are holding God back in our lives from what he can do because our mindsets aren't big enough. We're just not thinking big enough. And what he actually can and wants to do in our life. And so I hope that you're encouraged. I hope that you see God in a bigger way. And people that want a piece of this, I'm not hard to find. I'm not saying that as an invite, but I'm just not hard to find. So I'm around, baby. So, I hope that I never run into you if that's your intention. But I do tell you, you have a place that loves you in Palms Church and in me. I love you. Even though you want to take me out, I love you. And I know that God is faithful and he loves you and he cares for you. And he will do in your life what only he can. He has redeemed me. He has saved me. He's picked me up from so many things in my life. And you're looking at somebody who is a true survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And I'm sitting here telling you he is faithful. When I was going through my healing, there was a season where God said to me, I was so mad at God. And I probably felt a lot like those of you who are frustrated about different things in your life. And I had a hard time praying. And I told God, I was like, how could you let this happen? And God said two things to me. The first, he said, I'm sick and tired of taking credit for things I didn't do because that's evil. It's not God. The second thing he said is you have no idea how bad it could have been and what I saved you from. You only see what you endured. And we think God's not a puppet master. He said, the sin in the world, you're going to have to live in that, but I will never leave you or forsake you. And before I saw God as how could you? And now I see you as God, you never left me. Those intimate moments that I now would love to share with my wife. There's times where when I hear a lawnmower outside, it makes me think of being sexually abused, or when I smell the grass in the spring, it takes me back to moments in my life where I was the byproduct of those things. And for the rest of my life, those memories will trigger that. But I'll tell you this, it doesn't make me think about my vulnerability as a kid. It makes me think about the goodness of my God. And that's how it's changed, is there's still triggers, but the memories are different. And today, maybe this podcast triggered you. Get help. Talk to somebody who is a professional at this. Get a pastor who can walk you through the spiritual side of it and hold on and help you get around a community that can take you through these things. Listen, I'm believing it because I know he's done it for me. And this is the impossible thing. If you say, Brandon, what was the impossible thing for you? This is it. There's no way I could heal from the abuse that I had in my life. And I've healed. And God's faithful. And he's in love with you. Let me pray. Lord, thank you for these people. Thank you for the listeners. Thank you for all that they are. I pray that they would feel your presence and your peace and know that you love them and you've never had a bad thought about them, that you're going to be with them. You promise to never leave us. And God, I pray that you would dig the things up that maybe have been buried deep beneath the surface, and things that you could show them that you're still faithful and that you never left them and you were always there. God, you went before them. God, we love you and we praise you and we thank you. And everybody said, amen. Hey, we love you guys. We'll see you right here. As always, Sundays, Palms Church, 9 and 10:30, online or in the room at Green Run High School. And we'll see you back right here next week. Peace.